evening and welcome to this ESPN special presentation. I'm Dan Patrick. The NBA season opens up this Friday night with 11 games on the schedule, including the Celtics hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves. This will be the first time in 13 seasons Celtic fans will not be treated to the talents of Larry Bird. But tonight you will be. We pay tribute to Larry not only with our words, his words, but also those who played with him and against him. We hope you enjoy what we've called Larry's Legend.
I always felt that if I go out there and shoot 1,000 extra shots a day, that got down to the last 10 seconds of the game, I should take that shot because I had all the extra practice where these other guys didn't have it.
It's going to go to Bird. He's got a shot. Get it! And it's got it. It's a 3-point field goal. And that's it. It's all over.
And I always thought that I carried myself in a way that people were sort of intimidated by me on the basketball court because I knew I could do certain things out there they couldn't do.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up 1 second left. What a play by Bird.
I might not have been the fastest guy or I might not be able to jump as high, but I always got the most rebounds and always scored the most points.
To fully appreciate what Larry Bird accomplished in his career, you have to first fully understand what he overcame in his life. French Lick, Indiana. Population 2,087, cannot be touched by interstate. Only country back roads can bring you into the second poorest region in the state, an area where the average income is just over $9,000.
I don't think any of the kids here realize they're poor as long as you got a basketball in your hand and a pair of tennis shoes and you can perform on Friday night and, be a member of a team. You're not poor if you can do that.
It was a point to anytime we left the house to go play ball, we had to take him because Mom would end up having to go to work. She couldn't stay there to watch him. He was too little, so everywhere we went, he had to go. We didn't like it, but because he was a little troublemaker back then a lot of times.
Larry's quest for basketball perfection was developed at an early age, almost out of necessity. During his long practice hours, he wondered, why go home when there's nothing to come home to? He grew from a scrawny 6'1 sophomore to a gangly 6'3 junior to a 6'7 star who would average 30 points and 17 rebounds his senior season. When Larry graduated from Springs Valley, he did what any good Hoosier basketball player wants to do, play for Bob Knight at Indiana. But at age 17, Larry Bird had never been more than 50 miles away from home for longer than a weekend at a time. His stay in Bloomington lasted just 24 days. Saying he felt lost and out of place, the local hero was headed back home.
I don't think that I was either quite smart enough or quite understanding enough of Bird's situation when he was here. He was from a small town down in southern Indiana, French Lick, and had some tough things in his life growing up. And came here, and I kind of approached it when he left toward the end of September. Well, I wouldn't have chased May or Buckner or Abernathy, and I'm not going to chase Larry Bird either. Well, probably at that point in his life, Larry needed somebody to chase him a little bit and to show a little bit more compassion for his situation than I did at that time.
I get back to campus and I see Scott May and my brother, Lauren, who happened to go to Indiana University. And I asked my brother, I said, well, where's this kid named Bird? And my brother says, yesterday I saw him out on this road and it's called 37. I saw him on 37 with his luggage. I think he went home.
Did you feel like a failure when you were hitchhiking home?
No, I was glad to get out of there. The only thing I was worried about is when I got home how my family would react. And I remember my mom was mad at me for 3 or 4 months after that. The first month we didn't even speak. And I can understand that, but I made the decision to leave and I was going to stick by it. I had everybody talking to me, trying to get me to go back, but I couldn't. It wasn't for me, and I had to get out of there, and I did.
I was upset about it a little bit because I thought, well, what are you going to do? And that was what the first question I asked. I said, what are you going to do? You can't just lay around here and do nothing.
Still to come on the show, Larry's legend suffers an identity crisis at Indiana State.
I had some friends who I kept in contact with while I was still back here at Indiana State, and because of the numbers that he would produce, they assumed that Larry Bird was a black player.
score hasn't changed a bit.
Jimmy Harris, welcome back.
Seen Coach Green lately?
I never thought that man would retire.
He used to say, Harris, tackling is like life. Hit it head on.
Harris.
Coach Green.
Coach Harris. Only one beer has the taste as genuine as the people who drink it. Budweiser.
So, you got any advice?
Harris, coaching is like life. Hit it head on.
AT&T.
Larry Bird was born to be a champion. He was destined for glory in the game he loved. Call this toll-free number now and get bird watching at its best in this amazing video, Larry Bird, a basketball legend. It's free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated, the best way to capture all the drama of sports. Through rare footage, you'll follow Larry from the basketball courts of Indiana to the hallowed halls of the Boston Garden. Be there when the championships are won. Share the glory, live the moments. Be there for the hard-fought and emotional duels with Larry's longtime friend and rival, Magic Johnson. Call now to subscribe or renew. Get your free video and 54 issues of SI, including the swimsuit issue, for only $1.29 an issue. Save over 55% off the cover price. For quicker delivery, use your credit card. Don't miss this heartwarming tale of a boy who lived his dreams. It's the story of a legend. The legend lives in Sports Illustrated. Call now.
When Larry Bird arrived at Indiana State in 1975, he unpacked a suitcase full of unpleasant memories. His father, Joe Bird, had committed suicide the previous year. A teenage marriage was headed for divorce. And in fact, due to the strains of that relationship, Larry Bird was once again ready to quit college. He showed up at his brother Mark's house, a pickup truck full of everything he owned, saying he had left Indiana State. Mark urged Larry to go back to school. Larry said he would only if Mark would go back and live with him. Due to that agreement, Larry Bird put Indiana State on the basketball map.
From out of old French Lick on up to ISU, he came to play some basketball. Arlie, and Clyde will be the first to agree this Hoosier boy can really do it all.
Larry is tremendous at making people believe in themselves. I mean, he does it in such a subtle manner you don't know he's doing it. And I think he gave Indiana State the feeling that they could accomplish anything, that they could go and do anything. And as long as he was there, we had that feeling.
The fighting Sycamores are racking up the scores, and Indiana has a new state bird.
Larry, one thing about him, he always, something in his mind always told him, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Can nobody here beat me? I'm the best. I'm the greatest. That's the attitude that he had, but he wasn't arrogant with it.
The Sycamores won 25 games in Larry's first year in Terre Haute, but the word about Bird had yet to spread nationwide.
Going to Denver for 2 years, I had some friends who I kept in contact with while I was still back here at Indiana State, and they never saw Indiana State or Larry Bird on TV. So because of the numbers that he would produce, they assumed that Larry Bird was a black player. And I thought, never thought of that, but they just thought that, a guy can do that kind of thing as far as score and rebound and dish out the assist. Must be a black athlete.
2 years later, basketball's secret weapon was no longer a secret to the rest of America. The Sycamores, who were unranked in the preseason polls Larry's senior season, breezed through the regular season unblemished. ISU tacked on a couple of more wins during the NCAA tournament, including a 2-point victory over DePaul in the semifinals.
For Indiana State, wearing number 33 at center, 6'9" senior from French Lick, Indiana, Larry Bird.
The championship matchup would prove to be Act 1 of a long-running two-man play that would eventually leave a lasting impression on the sport. Bird didn't know his team would make it to Salt Lake City that year, but he had a premonition Magic's team would.
I remember the first time I seen him play was my senior year, and they were playing against the Russians. And, they would dunk and pass, and you could tell he had control of the game from the beginning. And we played the Russians that year, too, and we had a close game. They beat them, 15 points, 20 points, but you could just tell that he was a great basketball player. And it's the first time I seen him play, and I was telling the guys right then that team is going to win the championship this year.
You didn't have a good feeling that night you played them, did you?
I didn't have a good feeling, no, not at all. Wasn't scared of them, or I thought that they would have to play a bad game for us to win.
Indiana State's one for all couldn't beat Michigan State's all for one. Bird and the Sycamores' magical season couldn't make their final opponent disappear.
I wasn't disappointed that much in getting beat. It was all of a sudden my career's over. I was almost through with college. All I had to do is finish up my student teaching, and it was over. And that's what hit me more than anything. Losing a basketball game, you'll get over that because there's always another game. But leaving college, because I had such a great time there, had a lot of friends, that's what got me.
All-American, we go to the finals. We lose to Michigan State. After the game, he tells me, I need to go to the boys club, and I need to work out and shoot. I need to work on my game. Hey, we had a great year, man. What are you talking about? I'm going home and I'm going to brag. I'm not going to play any ball, but that's just the difference, He's a perfectionist, and he worked at it, he really did.
Before heading back to French Lick to hone his talents for the Celtics, Bird set his sights on conquering another sport, baseball.
He was a little nervous in doing it, which, if the truth be known.
The reason I played in college is because I knew I could hit that baseball.
We didn't start Larry. We kept him in the dugout, and the people kept, pounding the stands, wanting to see him.
I haven't played baseball in, 4 or 5 years, 6 years. And I went to a lot of their games. I watched him, and I knew I could stand up at the plate and hit the ball.
And Larry went up there to pinch hit. We put him in the game as a pinch hitter. And the crowd gave him a standing ovation as he walked up.
First time I got up there, it was like I couldn't believe how hard he was throwing the ball.
He proceeded to use his slow pitch softball swing and strike out. He looked terrible.
He didn't look much better on defense either.
I just got out there. I was playing a doubleheader that day, and just got on the field, and there was a pop-up between first base and home plate. And I took off, and me and the catcher dove at the same time, and his shin guard caught me upside the head, and it took me a while to come out of it.
And they both laid there on the ground for a minute, and I thought, oh, no, what have we done?
I knew where I was at, but I couldn't stand up. It's like the 100-mile-an-hour wind was blowing me off course.
I kept saying to myself, Larry, get up, get up, get up. The poor catcher probably wonders why I wasn't rooting for him,
So it took me about 3 or 4 innings to shake it. It wasn't a good experience.
Still to come on the show, Larry's pro game plays before rave reviews.
And I used to always say that, to my friends, it's like, yo, is Larry really that good? I used to say yeah, that's the baddest white boy I ever played against.
Serving Ventura County for more than 20 years, Ottavio's features the finest in Italian cuisine. From our traditional dishes to our regional specialties, everything at Ottavio's is fresh every day, including fresh fish and our famous fresh baked bread. Try our weekday lunch buffet or our delicious early dinner menu, served Sunday through Wednesday. And for a special Sunday, don't miss our popular champagne buffet brunch. That's Ottavio's in Camarillo, just off the Ventura Freeway at Carmen Drive.
scorest scorer in the game today, and he's got the rest of the league singing the blues. Brett Hull leads St. Louis against the Edmonton Oilers Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN National Hockey Night.
SportsCenter's on the way. Who's first among the first-year American Leaguers? We'll tell you. Also, bad luck for the Patriots. It continues. And the NBA greats with a word of advice for the Shaq on the way to the NBA. Mike Tirico, Dan Patrick at 11:30 Eastern.
Bird was a junior eligible when the Celtics selected him as the 6th pick in the 1978 draft.
I was on a golf course and a guy came down and said, "Hey, you just got drafted by the Boston Celtics." And I didn't even know that I was up for the draft. I didn't know nothing about it. I never followed professional basketball. And that night I was at home and they had it on the news. And I thought, well, I better start checking this out and see what this is all about.
Bird joined the Celtics a year later, signing the largest rookie contract in sports history at the time. But he came ready to punch the time clock, not cash paychecks. What was it like when you got your first paycheck?
You know, it's funny, I have never, ever seen one of my paychecks from the Celtics. They send it to the bank, and I get a report on it every month, but I've never actually seen a check.
You're not even curious. I mean, you know what you're making, but...
I never broke it down.
Bird was entering the NBA at a time when 80% of its starters were black. He was joining a last-place team with a me-first attitude, a team that had posted the most losses in franchise history the previous season. He refused to be turned into a symbol representing the Great White Hope. Some blacks were skeptical of the knight in shining armor.
Well, you know, the league needs great white players. The league needs great black players, you know, because it's great for marketing, great for the league, you know, fans and everything. And so I thought they were really just pushing somebody to be a great white player. I didn't think he was as good as everybody's saying he was. But once I came in and started playing with him, I realized then that everything they said about him was true. You know, we sit back out there and have a beer out in the locker room, and we was we may be talking. It's like, you know, white boys just lit you up. And I used to always say that, you know, like to my friends, it's like, yo, is Larry really that good? I used to say like, yeah, that's the baddest white boy I ever played against.
The Celts won 61 games in Bird's rookie season. A year later, he would guide Boston to the first of his 3 titles. 3 years later, he would earn the first of his 3 consecutive MVPs. He was cocky, he was arrogant, and he was driven by being the best player on the best team.
My high school coach told me one time, we used to play and practice, and I know he's using it as a motivational tool, but he said no matter how far you run or how fast you run or how many shots you take, there's always somebody down the road a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit better. So we always thought that if we put that extra 100 jump shots in or ran that extra mile, we could stay up with that guy. And it took me a long time to think that, well, you know, that one guy he was talking about could have been Magic Johnson.
When we came in, we were enemies, and we were natural rivals. No, we didn't like each other. No, we didn't speak. Hey, I don't care for the man. He don't care for me. We're going at each other and going back and forth. And finally, after 4 or 5 years of battling each other to the end, and we have a commercial together. And I'll tell you, that day was the most remarkable day because that brought Magic Johnson and Larry Bird together.
While his wars were with Magic, his battles were waged with the rest of the league.
It was a tie game. They had the ball. DJ was stalling the basketball. And Larry was kind of standing. I was right behind him, like denying him the ball. And they called a timeout. And he turned around and looked at me and said, I'm going to score right here on you. And I said, I know you will. I'll be ready.
10 seconds. 5, and Bird has the basketball. Look out. 2 seconds on the clock, and timeout used by the Sonics.
He shot a turnaround jump shot. And I just looked back, and the ball just went in, hit off net. And he said, I told you so. Another time it was when we was playing him, he had like 42. Kemp was a freshman. He told Sean Kemp that I'm the best F player to ever come from Indiana and shot a 3-pointer in his face, all net. We was like, Larry Legends is at it again. Larry uses picks probably better than the players ever played the game. And Larry was on the box, and Robert Parrish was coming down and set a pick on me. So Chief didn't shoot, didn't throw a good pick. So while Larry's in the air, he's got the ball right here, and he's screaming at Chief for not setting the pick. And I'm like, you're screaming at a guy in the air for not setting the pick, and he makes the jumper. I'm like, I couldn't believe that.
He put the fun into fundamentals. He wasn't into degree of difficulty. His career lasted 13 seasons. The pain those 13 seasons delivered will last a lifetime. His body started asking for timeouts in 1989. By 1992, his body would ask to quit.
You'll never know how much pain you were in, Willie.
Unless you have back trouble. It got scary after a while because it got to the point where I couldn't feel my leg, my toes. That's what scared me the most.
The announcement was not a shock, but the timing was a surprise. His farewell party came soon after a printed story suggested Larry Bird was considering playing part-time.
It just kept getting worse as summer went on. You know, they were going to start picking the games and home games. They're going to do this and that. And my back wasn't feeling that good anyway. And when I made my decision, it was time to do it, get it over with, and go on with life. But there's no way that would ever happen. I would never, ever do that to the fans of the NBA.
If you ask to sum up Larry now versus after retiring, then, you know, now he's fun. He's really, a hell of a person. Then he was pure basketball, pure athlete, pure star, pure Boston.
A grapefruit drink that's actually sweet? Yep. Ocean Spray Ruby Red Grapefruit Juice drink. It's got a sweet taste that's really different. If this is grapefruit juice, this is sweeter Ruby Red. Surprisingly sweet Ocean Spray Ruby Red.
I get asked all the time why somebody like me, who belongs to the Nature Conservancy and the World Wildlife Fund, would work for Georgia Pacific, a forest products company. So I tell them it's because we believe the same things about the world we live in. At the mill where I work, we've set strict environmental standards that a lot of times go beyond even the governments. Nobody made us. We just thought it was our responsibility.
Top-ranked Michigan meets Northwestern in a Big Ten battle, and Nebraska hunts down Kansas in a game that could determine who goes to the Orange Bowl. College football on ESPN in a class by itself.
This ESPN special presentation, Larry's Legend, is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. With that fresh, pure, natural taste, nothing beats a Bud.
When Larry's Legend returns, it's storytelling time.
One opening night, we're playing in New Jersey, and everyone's all jacked up for opening night and getting ready for the game, and KC's giving us our motivational speech to go out on the court and get ready, start the season off on the right foot. And Larry's underneath the trainer's tape table, tying KC's shoestrings together. KC's giving us the speech, everyone's laughing inside, can't even concentrate on the game. He was a fun guy to play with, obviously.
More Larry stories coming up.
AT&T.
Welcome to Hotel Views, Business Club, Holiday Inn or Ramada, Bob?
Susan, you boardroom bow wow. Holiday Inn has a business club. It's got bonus points, your gifts, everything. Wake up, Susan. Smell a coffee.
I smell something, Bob, and it's not French roast. Look, Ramada's business card program has all that and more. At Ramada, you can earn bonus points faster toward over 10,000 gifts. Plus, your spouse stays free. Tell us, Bob, when did your brain check out? Face it, Ramada's in, holidays out.
Richard, we've been eating your dust for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm not done yet. I got one more race left in me.
Okay, King. I'll see you at the Hooters 500.
Sunday afternoon, November 15th, live on ESPN.
Larry's storybook career spanned 13 seasons. Here's some of those stories he leaves behind.
We go on the road, and Larry used to like to have a little bit of fun after, like we all did. We were all young. We'd go have a few beers after the game and stuff. And so Larry decided on this road trip that he wasn't gonna drink, wasn't gonna go out, was gonna go to bed early, was gonna take care of himself, was gonna have a great road trip. He was about 3 or 4 days into this. We play our game. We play in Golden State. He goes 0 for 8. First time I ever saw him go 0 for 8. He walked in the locker room, and we're all just going like, we'd never seen Larry go 0 for 8 like that. And Larry goes, that's it. He goes, I can't hang out with Chris Ford. Going to bed's not good for you. So we stayed out pretty late that night. And the next night he had about 38 in Portland.
One time we were all getting on the plane, and I didn't know Larry wasn't going to play. And so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for Larry to come in onto the plane, and Dave walks by, and I go, well, Dave, where's Larry? And he goes, oh, he's not coming. I go, well, I'm getting off. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, this plane's going down for sure. And he goes, well, and I said, the sad thing about it is tomorrow's headlines are going to read, Bird lives.
I can remember the night he and I and Doug, we went out to Rush Street, and as you said, we had a couple beers, maybe a few too many, because the Chicago cheerleading staff happened to be in the bar that we were at, and they kept sending us a few beers, and before we knew it, it was late at night, and we had a few too many. We got in a cab, and they got us back to the hotel, and about 6 hours later, we had to be up because we were playing a 12 o'clock game that afternoon, and we get to the arena, and we're still a little tired, and matter of fact, Larry fell asleep on the taping table to get a little nap before the game. So we go out, and Larry takes his first shot. He misses everything. And I'm going, oh, Lordy, Bill Fitch is going to be all over me because he knew he was with me. And Robert Parrish picks up 3 quick fouls. So that means I got to go into the game and play a bunch of minutes that night. We ended up winning the game and winning the series against Chicago. Bird had, like you said, around 40 points. And as we're walking off the floor, I can remember this. Larry looked over at those cheerleaders and said, thanks a lot for those beers last night.
The doors are probably just open to the arena. And these 2 guys walk around the corner. Our locker room wasn't well marked, so they probably thought they were just going into a restroom or probably just walking around seeing what they could find. They happened to walk into our locker room, and I could tell when they first walked around the corner that they were just like shocked that they were in the Celtic locker room all of a sudden. And Larry, as soon as he sees them and he knows they're not supposed to be there, he says, oh, hi guys, come on in. And he invites them in the locker room, invites them to have some popcorn. The ball boys had already got some popcorn in there, and these guys were just like shell-shocked, that they walked into the place, and now Bird's making them stay in there, and they're like scared to death. And so he makes them sit down by his locker, and he gets them some popcorn. He, you guys need anything to drink? We got some beer back here for after the game, or Coke or pop, whatever you need. And then after every player would come in, Larry would introduce these guys to the player, and these guys, after a while, they just started eating this stuff up. Casey Jones walks in the locker room. Casey, come over and meet my friends, my long-lost buddies. And it was just hilarious. I just always wondered after that night what happened to those guys, how many people they told that story to, and how many people believed it.
He was in Philadelphia, and it was around Christmas time, and the people dressing up like Santa Claus. They had like 4 or 5 of them sitting in one row. The game's going on, and they take me out of the game. We're sitting there, and I look over there, and there's these 4 Santa Claus getting in a fight, and these guys are pounding these Santa Clauses, and I'm sitting there going, holy cow. I said, what's all these kids think about this? Sitting in the stands, and they look down there, 4-year-old kids, hey, Mama, there's Santa Claus, and all of a sudden you see him in a fist fight with some guy behind him. That was probably the most startling thing I've ever seen in my entire career.
While Bird was still active, he never wanted to look back on the highlights of his career. He feared this was an admission that he was no longer still improving. The NBA will discover more stars. Boston will attach itself to another hero. But both will be a little emptier without Larry Bird.
Do you even like that Larry Legend stuff?
I don't know. My friends like it because that's what they call me, Legend. But I don't know.
It's flattering.
It's very flattering, but it's also very embarrassing.
Bet on SportsCenter, Lofton, or Listach. Which L gets the W as AL Rookie of the Year? Bonds the Brave? That's something to talk about. Magic finally talking about his re-retirement.
And I think I would have fun this year